Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grit number 17. My name is Brandon. That is Arron, and that guy right there, this dude right here, this is Jeff Sidwell from Next Step Fitness. Thank Jeff for joining us today.
How are you, thanks for having me, guys. I'm doing great, thanks. How you guys doing?
Good, doing well. So what we're going to do today, and the reason that I asked Jeff on, I just bumped my microphone, is as we get closer, right now we're 15 days out, so just over 2 weeks out from Leadville Trail 100 2022, which Arron is running, and I am doing some pacing for Arron. We wanted to talk to Jeff about the recovery aspect, because I think that so many people, especially like I'm 44. Jeff, how old are you? If you let me ask. 38. Arron, you're 38, right?
Yep.
Right. So both you young bastards. So, but what's interesting is that as we get older, and I mean, even at 38, you guys certainly can attest to this, that recovery aspect and really paying attention to the things when you're not running are almost more important than the things when you're running.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jeff was speaking somewhere where we were both at a meeting, and I heard him talking specifically about this with some of his clients as well. And he'll have a chance to tell you guys about Next Step Fitness and all that stuff here in a moment. But before we get into any of that, please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, share, all those things. Leave some comments, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Stitcher, Spotify, listening to just the audio version of this. If you have any questions, you can always send them to us on the socials. Excuse me. On Instagram, by the way, I am at Gearist, as you can see right there if you're watching it. Arron is at Arron with 2 R's and 2 R's in the Garrod, ARRONGARROD. And Jeff, what is your Insta?
At nextstep.fit.
At nextstep.fit. So now that Jeff just mentioned that, I'm going to write it down. I have a little notepad that's right here beside me. That will be in the show notes of this episode. So please be sure to not only follow each one of us, but feel free to ask questions such as they come up.
That's the most important part, for sure.
Ask questions. There's a bit of there's no such thing as a stupid question thing. Yeah. And I think that I was talking to a friend about this yesterday relative to kind of guys. There's this thing where we have to be like, oh, I don't need to ask. All right, I got it. You don't got it.
No. Take the shorter path. That's all. Take the shorter path.
Yeah.
Ask the question.
Yeah. So typically what we do, Jeff, just so you know, is we kind of rehash what we've done in the past week. We take a look at a couple pieces of gear. Arron, do you have some gear there?
I do not actually.
Okay. Well, I've got 2 things, and we'll talk about 2 of them. We actually already sort of kind of talked about one, but we'll talk about both of them again anyway, and then we're going to talk about what we're here to talk about today. So first thing I will look at is a piece of gear. This is the New Balance Fresh Foam X High Aero number 7 trail shoe. Good shoe. I like New Balance. I really like Fresh Foam. Jeff, what's your kind of go-to brand?
New Balance is great, and then Brooks has always been like the safest bet for a lot of my clients. Just they seem to have the structural kind of integrity of the foot figured out. Yeah. So if you're ever having trouble, I say that. But New Balance is pretty much my second.
Yeah, and there's a shoe, the Catamount from Brooks, that I'm actually about to review, which is a great shoe because I mean it's not great in terms of traction on super technical trail because the lugs are quite flat, especially when you're descending, but in terms of a speedy shoe, it's awesome. So This guy right here, if you've run in a high aero before, it's not going to be a whole ton different. I will say it's a little clunky here and there. It's a lot of shoe, but if you're on technical trail and particularly a lot of rocks, it's really going to do a good job protecting the foot. I like the traction, all that kind of stuff. And later in the show, we're going to take a look at this guy right here, the Super Comp from New Balance also, which I have not run in, but Arron has. And so we're going to touch on that a little bit. So first, Jeff, how's your running going?
Well, you know, I say I'm not a runner. People don't believe me because I do ultramarathons now, but I don't really enjoy running, but I'm doing it for bigger goals of mountaineering and speed ascents and all that. But
nice.
But as a whole, running's going well. Body feels good and super clean. I'm going to do Bear Peak this weekend 3 times, 3 laps on Bear Peak, which is like 7,500 feet in 15 miles. And it's going to be a bear. It's going to be rough. But
have you done Bear Peak before?
Yeah. I'm familiar. I did 2 laps on it a couple of weeks ago, and now we're going for 3.
Yeah, Bear Peak, for those of you that aren't here, and even for you,
Yeah.
Aaron, Bear Peak is just above Boulder. It's kind of South Boulder, and it is tops out about 8,600 feet.
Yes. Yep.
Um, it's a great it's a great trail for hitting just kind of like a lot of vert in a
Yep.
very short distance. Like you were saying,
Yep.
it's only 5 miles round trip,
Yep.
give or take, but it's straight up.
Yep.
Like you get the typewriter legs on the way down because your
Yeah.
your legs are just shutting down.
Yep.
And there's like a saddle with a false summit almost, and then you
Hmm.
kind of pitch up from there, which gets like I've done it with ice on it. I do not recommend that
No.
unless you've
Yeah.
got some micro spikes.
You better have some micro spikes. I did that too, and it took me like twice as long. It was
Yeah.
it was rough.
Especially on the way down. I mean, you're just wait because if you start sliding, you're not going to stop until you
Right.
hit a tree.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
Where Aaron is, Jeff, excuse me, he is a total. The most vert that Aaron gets in a day is when he's going from the downstairs of his house
To the upstairs.
Right. Man cave, and then back up to go to sleep.
Which is Virginia Beach, which is pancake, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Aaron, how are your runs going?
Good. Everything's going really well. I've got one more double-digit run this weekend, and then kind of shutting it down as far as longer efforts until race day. Everything's in that heart rate zone, so everything's feeling good and easy, and recovering well. So I'm not as tired or as sore after my runs now. So yeah, I'm feeling good.
That's awesome, man. So for me, I did 9.5 yesterday. I'm not going to do a taper until probably like a week out, because I just need to get in bigger miles, frankly. And so I did 9.5 yesterday and loved it. And I will say that there's a thing with my body, and I think this is the same with everybody's body. I figured it out back in like 2010, and then I just set it aside and apparently have forgotten it over the last few years. And that is that if I take the first 20 minutes of any run or bike or an endurance sport effort, if I take the first 20 minutes to really warm up my legs and run so slow, run or walk, but frankly, the walking doesn't quite fire off the calves in the same way, or the quads, because it's, walking is basically a series of stop starts, whereas running is this kind of leaping from foot to foot. When I warm up exceedingly slow, like embarrassingly slow, I do so the rest of the run is 1,000 times better. 1,000 times better.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's because I'm starting in a place of checking my ego at the door, like out of the gate, where I'm like running for those first 20 minutes and there's like a lady walking with a stroller passing me, or if it's that, or if it's a combination of that and my body actually kind of getting the blood flowing, beginning to slowly flush any lactic acid that's left over from the days before or whatever that is. So I will say that run I did yesterday, it was sweaty because it was 92 degrees when I began. Jeff, if you know Boulder Valley Ranch, kind of off Nebo Road, it was like there's zero shade out there.
Right. No tree coverage. Yeah.
No tree coverage. And when you get down by that one lake, kind of just west of the Eagle Trailhead, back by the res there, there's this kind of pond. All the humidity settles down in that. Dude, I got down there and it was so humid. I paused for a second. I took out my phone. I was like, and it said 19%. I was like, this is not 19%. Like, I know humidity. This is not 19%.
Right. This is 65%.
Oh.
And then 20 yards behind you, it was 19%.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it was just super frustrating. But overall, the run felt really good. My body felt really good. And I did 9.5 and did not take water, which is a mistake, to be honest with you. But even still, by 9.5, I didn't feel super depleted. And I think it's because, again, I checked myself at the door, and then I let my body settle in instead of my ego going, you have to do this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'll add that the breath mechanism, getting your diaphragmatic breathing, like just getting those muscles warmed up in a bigger way, because we're seated and we're so compressed, and the intercostals, the muscles between our ribs, all kind of constrict us. And then as you get moving slowly, And again, as a non-runner, like I get so depressed. I've got a running coach, and it's always like 14 miles plus 2 mile warm up. I'm like, that's 16 miles. You know, like
such a liar.
That matters to me because I don't like it. But it is a massive difference for just getting things opened up, circulation, body warmed up, and then really allowing yourself to work with your body instead of ego of like this. Like no, just like let it flow, and then you'll see your body operates as it wants to instead of again from an place of ego.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good part of that also that I don't think we understand, and maybe that's part of the hydration aspect, because when you breathe harder, you're expelling much more moisture by way of exhalation. Anyway, it's all tied together is the point. Check your, don't be an ass. Check your ego. That's what
exactly.
A shirt that says that. So Arron, as you are kind of getting into the last couple weeks here, and you're kind of getting to a spot where recovery is hyper important. You're about to taper for a couple weeks before race day. What are the things that you are really looking at that you've been doing that? Because I basically want to hear you two talk to see where that kind of begins to break down. And for the record, before we get into that, sorry, Arron, I just asked you a question, and now I'm going to ask Jeff to say something. But Jeff, you just did earlier this year, you did a 30 miler, right? 32?
32.4. Every little bit matters. So 32.4 called the Dirty 30. It's called the Dirty 30. So I really thought it was 30 miles until the night before. Well, and then someone's like, it's 32.4. I'm like,
it's actually only 30.4. Your coach just gave you a 2 mile warm up. That's
exactly.
So
tricked me again.
In recovering into that and getting your recovery, how much taper did you do relative to that?
So that's a unique one, just because I told my coach going into it, I want to treat it more as part of the training as opposed to a big race that I'm excited about type of thing. Yeah. So we did not do as much of a taper because, again, I wanted it to be part of the building process for my other things. Like I'm going down to Mexico to do a 17,000 foot volcano, and I want to run it and run it like the neighboring town to do about 20 miles on it. So generally her rule is 2 weeks, and really cutting down. But for that one, we had 7 days of a taper per se, where it was just an easier week leading up to it. And I felt a difference. I felt a difference where the body didn't feel as clean moving through a really big effort, because we hadn't done, this was 7,500 feet or so and 32.4 miles. And, and we hadn't done anything near that for good reason. And so, my body didn't feel as clean through that race, but it's because we didn't taper essentially.
Yeah. So let me not kind of jump on Arron here, but so Arron, as you lead into that, and especially based upon, so Jeff, just so you know, Arron has done hundos before. Nice. Excuse me. This is not his first rodeo, so to speak. So Arron, as you look into this, what have you noticed before in your 100 milers, your tapers for those, not necessarily the preparation, I guess I would say recovery and taper for those, and what are you doing differently for this one?
So for this one, I'm doing more, my workouts are more centered around like the middle part of the day, where it's the hottest, most humid, most miserable parts of the day, because I know that's going to be the hardest for me to run. Mm-hmm. And that's the closest I'm going to get to elevation or, altitude, the heavy breathing, that kind of stuff. Yep. So I do that, and then I cool down very rigorously. So I make sure that I come in, I take my clothes off, I bring my body temp down. I don't get in the shower right away because that's pointless. We'll just start, continue to sweat. But I'm really making sure I'm drinking enough fluids, getting enough electrolytes, and then really making sure that I'm resting my legs when I'm done.
Yeah.
So that's different from previous races, because usually it's just hammer all the way up until a week before, and then take 2 days off before a race and then go race.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, 90% of my races happen on the East Coast where I don't have to get above 3,000 feet, 4,000 feet, where in 2 weeks I'll be going up above 10,000 feet for the majority of the race. So.
And staying there. Yeah.
Well, that's just it. So there are 1, 2, 3, like 5 really big climbs, 6 really big climbs at Leadville, 2 really, really big climbs. So as long as I can make sure that I maintain a decent pace at those 2, the back half should be pretty fun.
Yeah. So, Jeff, as you kind of as you think as a coach, as a personal trainer, as you think about the recovery, not just kind of after and as you're coming off a run and trying to, in Arron's case, and just also for the record, Arron was out here a few weeks ago, about a month ago. And we got some training in while he was here. He got to go up above 12,000 feet.
Twice,
a couple times.
Nice.
Yeah. And so in trying to mimic that, is there a way, because I will say that when it's cooler, and to Arron's, I think to Arron's point, so Arron's also, like, I'm not a small person. Arron is 6'3", like I'm 6'1".
Oh, okay. Yeah.
6'5", 230.
6'5", excuse me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So not a small human being. And so like, as with that being the case, like guys like Arron, guys like me, it tends to be that my body is 1,000 times more efficient when I'm cooler, which actually is kind of exciting that some of this will be taking place at night because I am super jazzed about people like, aren't you going to be cold? And I'm like, I hope so.
Right. Right. Please.
But as you look into it and as you look to kind of regulating your body in those smaller moments, like Arron said, he doesn't just come home and jump in a shower but actually takes kind of rigorous cooling down of his body. How much time does it take? How quickly, I guess is the way to say it, can you get your body to go from this active state into even just a sporadic recovery? And I'll give an example of that. When she was on Joe Rogan a couple years ago, Courtney DeWalter was talking about the Moab 200,
3-minute naps, right?
2-3 minute naps. She was pissed off at somebody. She talked about it because she was like, let me nap for 3 minutes, because she was hallucinating from being so fatigued. She laid down for 3 minutes, and then when he woke her, I think it was a dude, woke her up, he was like, hey, you need to wake up. And she was pissed because she felt like it was like 4 hours, but it was actually only 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So how quickly, from a physiological standpoint, can your body begin to, because Arron's going to have aid stations, and frankly, Arron might have a place where he wants to sit down. I don't know.
Yeah.
How quickly can your body get into that place of beginning to have some sort of meaningful recovery, I guess is the word. Does that make sense?
It's a fine line because from what I understand, and Arron, if you've heard different, like there's always 1,000 theories to anything, and they all, there's science behind a lot of things out there, but the time-tested thing I've heard is don't stay at an aid station for more than 15 minutes, because then you're getting into the type of recovery that your body's trying to rebuild, but then you go and break it down immediately. But if you're less than 15 minutes, you're keeping the engine running. It's just more on idle, as opposed to shutting the whole thing down and then restarting is really a grind for your physiology to get going again, for especially ultramarathon type stuff. So I'm open to other schools of thoughts, but that's the advice that I've had from my coach, who definitely coaches people in the Leadville 100 and different things. And then, gratefully I listened to my coach, so I haven't experienced like that post 15-minute mark, and had to feel that kind of grind of systems kicking back into gear of sorts. But if you're talking about like rest to increase your energy to keep going, I would recommend breath work, hydration with electrolytes, of course, and then breath work. Like the more you can get some deep breathing going, especially at aid stations, just give your body more O2 and clear out some of that lactic acid and CO2 that's building up. But then I keep it under the 15-minute mark, and that really has been an effective way to, again, keep things loose, keep my systems running. And also when I start going, I feel less resistance or less of that sandbag in my quads and calves in particular for trying to restart the next leg of the race.
Arron, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there. I've always said beware of the chair. Like I try to sit down if I don't have to. You know, if you got to change shoes or something, that's different. But try not to sit down. Yeah, I'm a 5 minute in the aid station kind of guy. If I'm there more than 5 minutes, something's wrong.
Yep.
You know, I've always gone with you can rest walking uphill. So, you know, Brandon, if you see me sitting down in an aid station, something's wrong.
Right. Get the AD or something, right?
Yeah, and I've been there. I mean, my last 100, I got so dehydrated that I was, you know, I couldn't retain anything. You know, shaking uncontrollably on the trail. There, I sat down and I never got back up for for the most part. My previous, you know, never sit down unless changing shoes, socks and shoes. Other than that, it's go forward. I figure if I spend too much time sedentary, my body's gonna be like, okay, now it's time to, you know, to release your everything else, and it's just makes it that much harder. So, you know, I'm a big guy, so when a body in motion stays in motion, it keeps going.
Yeah.
So, Arron, as you are things like boost oxygen, do you know what that is? Like the oxygen, are those allowed at Leadville? I don't even know.
I don't know. Never had one, so I have no idea.
Those are mini supplemental oxygen tanks that you can just kind of seal your mouth and your nose with and breathe in pure oxygen.
O2, buddy. I've got some in the garage.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're allowed, frankly, and they might not be.
I don't know.
I'd have to look.
I don't think I'm going to be in contention for the first 50 people to cross the finish line. So I'm not sure anyone's gonna be like, hey, you.
Right.
That being said,
you were oxygen doping.
Yeah. I'm also not carrying a canister around, but you know, if there happened to be one at mile 62, I mean,
they don't weigh anything. They feel like they're empty. They really don't weigh anything.
Yeah.
But
even just like, as long as you don't put your diaphragm into spasm, which means like taking, you know, as long as you're not going into, if you've had some experience with hyperventilating, then you could just do like 20 big hyperventilating breaths, fast breathing, and that helps clear out a lot of stuff and reoxygenate you. And, you know, again, I try to do, whether it's square breathing of sorts or hyperventilation, like I try to do that for a few minutes while I'm at the aid station if I'm not cramming food down my mouth.
So here, question about sort of the strength side, Jeff. As Arron moves, excuse me, into this period of kind of like recuperation, the taper, right? I mean, if anyone's a runner of any sort, you know what the taper is. As he begins to move into this piece, and this is a lot of what your programs on nextstep.fit look at. By the way, guys, again, go to nextstep.fit, is to address specific areas. Well, whether it's like quads or knee pain or whatever, because I in fact asked you, Jeff, I had kind of a tight hip flexor on the left side a couple of weeks ago, and you gave me access to the program to really look at that, and it was super helpful. And it turns out that for me, and both your program and then my wife actually helped me with this. We have a percussive, so it's the Roll Recovery R1 percussion massager, and it was the quad that was jacking up everything above it in the kinetic chain. And probably below it, quite frankly. But as Arron begins to look at these next few days or a couple weeks, I guess, what are some of those strength, stretching, kind of how do you maintain that body from, because my tendency, I will tell you this from personal experience, is to be like, woo, taper, I'm not doing anything.
Exactly. Couch for 2 weeks.
That's right. Give me some fries.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah. So for me in those, you know, so I've done 3 ultramarathons and plenty of like mountaineering type of stuff. And for me, that lead up is still, it's more about neuromuscular activation as opposed to big strength building or anything like that. So, for example, if you have a band around just underneath your knees, if I'm seated here, and I won't be able to give you a visual, but if I'm seated here and put a resistance band just underneath my knees, so that my legs are looped in, and then I just push my knees wide, and I hold that for 30 seconds or so, that's really getting a glute med activation. And a lot of runners are so quad and calf dominant, then their low back gets tight, and then the calf strains and plantar fasciitis and all that shows up. If you can keep and even add to some of the activation that you're getting from the posterior chain, hamstrings, glutes, even adductors, inner thighs, if you can keep those really active and in tune, then when you go to run and propel and hit some of that vert, you're not just going to beat the hell out of your quads and calves, and you'll have more energy throughout the whole thing. Because again, if I just use my quads, for 80,000 steps, they're cash. But if I can use quads, hamstrings, glutes, adductors, all of a sudden you have this collective strength and more endurance, more power, because you're not just relying on one muscle. You're not just playing the same kind of guitar string over and over again. So that's one big thing is, and that's a lot of what's on my training program is it's more neuromuscular to teach your body to work optimally and 50-50. It's like if quads are doing 80% of the strength or 80% of the work, hamstrings are just atrophying and probably getting tighter, which is going to create this dysfunction through your body. And you're not optimizing. You don't have to do a ton of squats, but if you do squats right with glutes and hamstrings, you're getting every motor unit recruitment, every muscle fiber in your whole lower body to engage. And you'll use that when you're doing, again, the vert in Leadville 100 or a long marathon or anything like that. So that's a big thing. And then the other thing that I want to call attention to for sure is that concept of for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. But that's not exactly true for running. So the physics of running is if I walk,
counterbalances. Sorry, go ahead.
If I walk, my body weight presses down into the earth, and the earth matches me pound for pound, pressing my body weight back into me. If I jog, my body weight presses down, and then it's times 3 going back into my body. So now my body is absorbing 190 pounds times 3. And then if I run, it's times 5. If I sprint, it's times 6 or 7, depending on how fast you are. And so if you think about that, for when you're training and doing, broken runs and stuff like this, last year when I was doing the 50 miler, I would do 20 miles on Saturday 30 miles on Saturday and 20 miles on Sunday. That is, take times 3 of my body weight. And that's what my body has had to absorb and work with to deal with for that amount of time. And so I better treat that reaction, or else I say to any of us to be like, I can't believe I got injured. It's like, no, like 190 pounds times 3 for 20 plus miles. I'm being a jerk if I think my body should not have any kind of feedback from that, like any kind of hey, I need a little love. So with that, one of the best things that a lot of people can do is you lie on your back and you go up to a wall. And this is in the low back training protocol, if you check that out. And your feet are, you're lying on your back and your feet are here and your body is 90 degrees so that I'm lying face up. I put my legs up the wall and I just hang there for 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that is traction for your low back. That is stretching some really important muscles that we don't know about, QL and psoas and things like that. And so that elongation is one of the best things we can do for, like, one of the first steps we can do essentially for offsetting what we put our body through when we bike, hike, run, or anything else.
You mentioned the glute needs a second ago, and I feel like, so I used to, this is years and years ago, and I fixed it, fortunately, from a form aspect, is that so many runners have that hip dip because the glute need is weak. And so what I try to do, and I do it maybe 30% of the time, but is when I'm brushing my teeth, do single, because it's 2 minutes is the optimum time to brush your teeth, right? So I do 2 minutes, 1 minute on top, left leg, half squats, single leg, half squats on the left leg, right? While I'm brushing my teeth. It's not a stabilizing thing. It's just for that glute med. And again, like what you're saying is that you're not, because we can look down and we go, look, our quads, right? We can look and we go, oh, our hamstring. We're accounting for these big, huge things, but it's not. It's the minutia,
Exactly.
the glute med, the psoas. It's these things that are coming into play,
Yeah.
and those are the things where I feel like because they're not this just big honking muscle that's right on top of our thigh, they get ignored.
Right, for sure. And people, we don't know. We think that we're doing it in squats, but we're usually using the wrong muscles in squats. We think that we're doing it in bridges, even the more kind of mundane bridges, but we're using our quads and our calves, and our low back is getting tight as a result in bridges.
Yeah.
So we think that we're getting some of these things, but it's all about kind of mind to muscle connection. And the one thing that people really need to find is, what am I trying to work in this exercise? And then 5 reps in, do I feel that work?
Yeah.
And a lot of times the answer is no. Like, I'm doing a bench press and I feel my shoulders. And so it's like, how do we get pecs to engage during bench press? How do we get glutes to engage during squats? And it's just about slowing down, usually doing less weight, but getting more results as a byproduct by doing the right things, or doing it mind to muscle connection. Yeah. I've fixed glute med by itself. I've fixed 3 people's knee pain in the last 3 weeks, brand new clients. Nice. And I hate to name a third, but it was all within 3 sessions. It was like 3 new clients, all with like left or right knee pain, and then glute med activation, had the alignment right, or got the alignment right for their actual like running. Because like if we're running and we're crooked, like that's going to be just wear and tear, and tendonitis and tears and all that stuff show up. So yeah, it's not hard. It's just we have to find the right foundational workouts and making sure we're doing them the right way.
Arron, thoughts on those foundational pieces, kind of like what you focused on, what you're looking at as you go into this, again, I don't want to call it a recovery, but the taper period.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. So all of that, I remember when I was dealing with the end of last year, beginning of this year, some plantar fascia issues. Yep. And understanding that it wasn't my foot my foot was hurting, but it wasn't my foot. It was the rest of my leg that wasn't getting the appropriate stretching or massaging. And then really focusing on those hamstrings and quads, and then the right stretches and things like that. And then, the plantar fascia kind of works itself out. Now I make sure to maintain that I'm doing those stretches, especially now, like the last 4 or 5 weeks, really making sure that even if, it's a longer effort or a harder effort and I feel like a little pain in a foot or like a twinge or a tinkle, I really take the extra time post and do some of those stretches to make sure, okay, let's not make this flare up. Let's do it now. So it is those little things outside of where the pain is, and really understanding that. So, I mean, 100%, agree with it. And at any point we want to go back to breathing, I have a handful of questions around breathing.
Do it.
Go.
Do it.
So breathing. One question is, when you get like that side stitch, or cramping or pain, kind of like, I'm not sure if it's like in the side, in your gut, in your chest. I've always found that like big breath through the nose and then out to the mouth, kind of slowing everything down, has been helpful. Is that me, or is that actually the way to do it? And then if I find myself like trying really hard to get my heart rate down, is there breath work I can do mid-race that can really help bring that down?
Great questions. Yeah. So first, the side stitch. Your diaphragm is a muscle that goes through your whole torso. And it's this little balloon that when you inhale, it drops, and when you exhale, it rises. And so that's essentially, that side stitch is a cramp of that muscle, which reflects some hydration, nutrition stuff. And also, as you take those deep breaths, you are stretching that, and that's a great way to help release a spasm. As long as do it slow and controlled, as you mentioned, like really, and before, in this taper week, you're really practicing belly breaths where you really feel that stomach extend, because you're getting the lower lobes of your lungs to expand and fully take in oxygen. So that's great. I've also had, you can even just, manually massage. If this is my rib cage right here, I can kind of press in and up. Let's see here. So in right there, and then up a little bit. And if I do that, you're either walking or you're stopping. But if I do that, hold that, and then breathe in deep. Then you're doing acupressure on that muscle while making it stretch. And that's an accelerated way generally to help it relax more. And then just relax the psychology. We start to, what I learned in Run Rabbit Run last year, which is 50 miles and 8,900 feet elevation, was like cramping passes. Like if we relax into it, it's like, okay, it's here right now, but it's not here forever. Generally, it's like, and so really the mind can become, cause physical contraction out of fear of, shit, like this is going to be around for the rest of the, 100 miles. And that's not the case. So deep breathing is great. Hydration, electrolytes, nutrition, and then even adding that acupressure. I'll show you one more time. It's, my rib cage is right here, and I am pushing in and then slightly up. So my fingers go just slightly underneath my rib cage. And then I would hold that and breathe in, down into my stomach, and then exhale. And that'll be a little bit of self-massage to help that diaphragm relax.
Yeah, years ago, years ago, I wrote an article about side stitches, and actually there's also a ligament that kind of holds up your liver, and that's why it's always on that right side. It's always on the right side, it feels like. And that, people will stick your hand in there right under the rib cage and literally push up and pull out almost to kind of release that area.
Yep. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it still sucks. Arron, I will tell you, stitches suck because it does get in your head. And so the heart rate thing, Arron, if I can, I'll say what I kind of have done in the past about that. I always noticed that it was like I had to have a mental checklist because what happens is it's the same reason that kids, when they start crying,
can't stop crying.
They can't stop crying, and their crying intensifies because they're crying.
Yeah.
And so the cause of their crying is that they're crying, and it's this weird cyclical thing. And so the heart rate thing, you go, oh shit, my heart rate's high. Oh God, my heart rate's high. And then your heart rate just stays up there. It gets higher.
Right. It's called anxiety.
For me, it was always, I had a checklist.
Yeah.
It was cheeks. And I know this sounds stupid. And for those of you listening, I mean facial cheeks, not my butt cheeks. But it's cheeks, shoulders, and wrists. And I knew that for me, if I could let myself feel like everybody, look, I don't care how thin you are, you still can feel your cheeks jiggling, God willing, So when you run, like I want to feel looseness. I want to actually feel the skin of my face kind of go kakunk, just a little bit, not a ton. And that's the cheeks. And then I go with the shoulders. Like even as I sit here and talk to you guys right now, I feel pretty relaxed, but then I go, and I can relax even more.
Exactly.
When you found your relaxation, go again, like relax again, because you're not there. And then with the wrists don't matter. I used to love how Ryan Hall would run. If you guys know back in the day, Ryan Hall looked kind of goofy because he would keep his arm at we run like this, but Ryan Hall would be like way down here at like greater than a 45-degree angle. And it looked kind of goofy because his hands were way down by his sides. But I started doing something like that. And what to me it was let my wrists totally go. And I know it's stupid and it's more physiological than anything else, but I let my wrists go and it would relax everything else. And then I would just kind of like settle down for a second. And I would try to, you're not going to hold the face thing. You're not going to pay attention to that, but for so long. But the point is just to get back to that sort of relaxation. And Jeff and Arron, one of the things that I was thinking about, one of you guys was talking about this, I forget who, but there's a mindfulness aspect to this. It was when we were talking about glute medius. Gluteus medius, for those of you who don't know, is a muscle. It's this big. It's maybe not even the size of your hand, right? It's small. It's kind of on your back below like the SI, the SI joint is right below that, kind of the top of your butt, and on each side. And if you don't know, if you're not mindful of that, and mindfulness is this buzzword that people can use for all over the place. But I think when it comes to your body, it's one of the most challenging, yet also once you've got it kind of dialed, it's one of the most easy things to be mindful about, but you have to stop to think about being mindful of it. And so when you're thinking about the glute med, like you were just talking about, Jeff, you said, if you don't feel activation in that muscle group, whatever it is, then you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
But that sort of mindfulness practice is important to that. And so both of you guys, like Arron, like as you are thinking about these things and you know these things about yourself, like do you do mindfulness practice, or do you feel the need to? And Jeff, what about yourself as well? Arron?
I mean, for me, it's, especially when it comes to race day or longer efforts, when a situation presents itself, I have very methodical things that I do. So it's all right, if it's a cramp in my leg or something with my leg, it's okay. Is this pain, or is this something I can work through? Is this long term? Is it short term? Kind of go through the cycle inside my head, make sure, okay, does it really hurt? Does it just feel like it hurts? Things like that. Same with cramping and breathing and the heat and exhaustion. Like, am I really tired, or am I going through a tough spot? So I have all that stuff. I guess, my question earlier was more around like specifically for like the breathing aspect. If I can't figure out how to, like, if I go through my mindful stuff and I'm still like, oh, I can't figure it out. Like, is there like sit down, take 10 deep breaths? Like, is there something like that I can keep in my back pocket?
Yes. So nasal breathing helps keep you more in a parasympathetic, or helps you return to a parasympathetic mindset, which sympathetic is fight or flight, or fight, flight, freeze. And some people add a fourth F in there too. And then parasympathetic is actually relaxing. So nasal breathing, nasal breathing is helping you return towards parasympathetic, and then a longer exhale is going to help the heart rate drop at a notable rate, even in a race, but it's going to be harder. But like, if your heart is thumping, then you could just go down to a walk, and for a minute, just maybe 4 counts in, and then 6, 7, or 8 counts out for your exhale, and then another 4 count in, big breath, and then 6, 7, or 8 counts out, and that activates your parasympathetic, or helps you shift gears into that, and then your heart rate will drop, and you'll be burning less inefficient energy. When our heart rate's going like this, and it doesn't need to be, we burn out much quicker.
So guys, we're having a little bit of some streaming challenges, and Jeff has to go here in just 1 second. So before we do that, I really want to encourage everybody to go to Next Step, nextstep.fit, or follow Jeff on Instagram at nextstep.fit, again on Instagram. And the programs that he has that are laid out there are very much to address very specific things. And Jeff, I will say that one of the things that I really enjoyed about your program, the pieces that I've been through, is that you're not just saying, go do this, but you're saying what it's working. You're saying what potential things to look out for, and being very descriptive across the board. So for people who have no idea, people who don't know what their glute med feels like as opposed to their glute max, can really understand what that group is what you're trying to address with that. So I love that. Anything else that you'd like to mention before we kind of talk about the shoe and then say peace out?
Thank you. Yeah. Just with that, it's, I created it because I found so many issues with people are YouTubing things, how to fix plantar fasciitis or carpal tunnel or tension headaches. And every time they YouTube, they find somebody different, and we don't know who these people are. And then the most annoying thing to me is, you're in the middle of learning how to do an exercise or a stretch, and then it cuts to a commercial about an air filter for 35 seconds. And you're just like, come on. And then a minute later, it's the same thing. So I just distilled, these are 17 years worth of practices that have worked for all my clients. And then when I started running last year, 60, 70 miles a week, I put them all to the test by making sure that they were bulletproof essentially. And I never got injured last year or this year. So these are all distilled into one source, no commercials, all that type of stuff, as a quality product that has worked for hundreds of my clients that I've worked with on site, and then more and more people online. So, but yeah, that's YouTube is kind of a scary place when it comes to health and fitness. Yeah. And so I wanted to put it all in one kind of hub there.
And especially from somebody who has actual degrees in
right.
those things.
Exactly. 4-year degrees, certifications at the wazoo, and everything else. Yep.
Exactly. Really quickly before everyone jumps, this is the other shoe. Arron talked about this a couple weeks ago. This is the Super Comp Trainer from New Balance as well. Arron loved running in this thing. And I can't wait. I will be running in it this week, so we'll definitely do a report back for that. Guys, thank you both so much. Yeah. Jeff, again, we'd love to have you back sometime.
I would love to be back. You guys are great, and you guys are doing good work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. You guys have a great rest of your week. This has been Grit number 17. Again, don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think, and we will talk to everybody soon. Peace.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.